Hey everybody, Joy Brooks here with Email and Coffee once again. Today I'm talking with a good friend of mine, Rob Carbone. We've done lots of work together over the years, and Rob's going to tell us about his journey. So Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I like to refer to myself as a marketing refugee, that I escaped the corporate marketing world and joined the world of content creators and providers for marketers, in that I now focus on voiceover. Um, and the journey part of that is kind of basic and kind of my dad passed in 2018, and I was working at the time for a local solar company that decided to move me from a full-time employee to a consultant, which at the time I was sort of numb to everything, but it actually gave me an extra 2 weeks to spend more time with my dad. And then after that, him and my mom made out pretty well for themselves, even though he was a New York City detective, in that after he was a detective, he got involved with Major League Baseball and made some very nice friends who sort of guided their investing. And my brothers and I all ended up getting nice chunks of change. And at the time, I just said, you know what? I hadn't taken a real vacation where I had actually left Long Island since August of 2001.
What's the vacation?
And
No, I'm kidding.
and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to take some time off, and I felt burned out. And for many years, I've had people tell me that I should try to do TV commercials and things like that, that I have a good voice. And over my career, I had done things like on-hold messaging. I did a couple of radio spots, and I did some narration of videos that I actually made for companies I worked for, and I did some emceeing at events I was doing. And
I didn't win. She argued and she won.
it's okay. So in late 2018, I got a thing from Hofstra for continuing education. They had a thing, Introduction to Voiceover. 5 classes. It was really basic. But the last class, the teacher brought in people who were video producers and VO agents and things like that. And we all did a read. And I happened to take a read that I had done for my previous employer. I edited it because they had me write it the way they wanted it presented. But when I had to record it, I had to speed up to get it all in. And that's not what you try to do. So I edited it, made it read a little bit better. And we got done. When I got done doing my read, they all looked at me and they all said the same thing. Be careful how you pronounce national, because never being trained to take the New York out of my voice, I was saying national. And I was looking, and then I found another teacher, a local teacher who's a real serious VO teacher, in 2019. And then through 2019, I worked with her. Then I went on to another vocal coach and someone to help me get rid of the New York from my accent. And a good friend of ours, Adam Holzer, got me a spot doing a Family Service League of Long Island that appeared on News 12. And it was for charity, so it wasn't a paying job, but it was a TV spot. And a few months after that, as I was doing the whole auditioning thing, trying to get these different things, I got contacted through LinkedIn by someone from Temple University. And they wanted to know if I could do long-form e-learning and if I would be comfortable doing reads about law enforcement. And I said, well, absolutely. My whole family's in law enforcement. And they didn't mind that my New York was still somewhat coming through. And it was a 44-module e-learning program. So I literally went from, I'm going to do a 1-minute TV commercial to 13 hours of e-learning. And then from there, I got some more e-learning work. And I've also been suffering with with a physical ailment, and by the end of 2019, I guess it was. Well, I had surgery in 2021, and at the end of 2021, I didn't know this, but after my surgery, the surgeon and my two other doctors had a conference and basically called me and told me they were submitting me for disability. So I got disability at the end of that year. So I've been on disability, which is nice because when you're getting started in VO, it's very rare that you get jobs that are going to pay $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. So you need to have that secondary income. So I actually have that, and I can now do some more practice and do some auditions and do things like that. And I'm very happy because the amount of stress in my life from working in marketing is I only market myself now, which yeah, when you can believe, and I always said this, when you can believe in the product, when you trust the product, when you know what you're talking about is something that's very near and dear to you, it makes the marketing very easier. And I admire people who get jobs for companies. And I mean, I had it a couple of times where you so believe in the product and you so love working in that environment that you're doing everything. As the years went on, that started becoming less and less because I started to see how disposable marketing people are. Whenever a company would have financial issues, they'd look and go, well, we've got 8 sales guys who are making commission and they can prove what they're doing. We've got a bunch of marketing people. Well, sales and marketing are the same thing. The sales guys can do it. And then they find out 6 months later that they can't write, that they don't know what they're doing. And now they have to scramble to find marketing people. But
it's a cycle. It's happened to me. I've been laid off 3 times.
And you probably know is what they do is they don't say to themselves, what if the people we had are available? Let's talk to them. No, they automatically default to, let's get some college graduates in here.
That's right.
And then with the dawn of social media and everything like that and its importance, that's been more and more. Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't want to.
But social is, I mean, there are many marketing channels.
Right.
So, you're sort of doing, you're doing advertising, you're doing PR, you're doing voiceover. So you're enmeshed in a bunch of different channels in what you're doing. Right. You're doing marketing, obviously. So you're doing a bunch of different things. But that doesn't mean that you don't need social. And that doesn't, it boggles my mind that, we'll either do this or that. That may be a viable solution. But that's not the solution, period.
No, and it was what I find interesting, and it becomes this sort of catch-22 for companies, is they're so hyper-focused on social. And in their minds, the people who can do social are the kids coming out of college. Mm-hmm. And I know there's degrees now for being a bachelor's in social media marketing. And I want to say to these kids, because I'm looking at what they're writing, did you take a business writing course, a creative writing course, a basic marketing course? Because, and this is where my relief comes from, is that I'm watching these campaigns being put out there. And I remembered what it was like. You create the campaign. You sell its efficacy to management. You put it into place. You start doing all the analysis to prove it. And then at the end, you've got to answer for it if it didn't work or it didn't work to the expectations you tried to manage but didn't manage. And what I love about being able to do voiceover now is I get an email. Here's a script. Can you record it for us?
Yes.
Okay. I record 2 or 3 versions, send it off to them. They listen to it and they say, can you do this read again, but just put more emphasis on these words? Okay, boom. And I do it and I send it off. And I may get paid, there's industry standards for what you get paid for these things. But what's great is once I've recorded it, however they use it, no problem. Right. Exactly. I'm now moving on to the next thing because they approved it. Mm-hmm. How they use it,
exactly,
it's not mine, and that's where all my stress went. So.
Yeah, no, the issue with marketing attribution is not a small problem, and in many cases, businesses are not even set up with a model for marketing to be able to define attribution.
Right,
so,
and
it goes through a sales funnel, and sales claims that it's theirs, and marketing can't say, well, we started a chain, and here's where we started, and here's how we can relate back. They don't have that business model in place, and it's
it's
important.
To me, what it's come down to is there's so much focus on improving your profits and showing that you're successful, that you look for ways to cut corners while thinking you're doing something. And when it comes to social media marketing, I've seen, and what I feel is going on, is there are companies out there who say, well, as long as we're out on social media, we're good. And we'll hire a couple of kids, and we'll give them we'll tell them what to write about. They'll approve it. We'll put it out there, and we'll see what's going on. And that, as long as we're doing that, that's fine. The thing is that social media is not made for every single industry.
Right.
And even if you can, and there's such an array of social media out there, you've got to pick the ones that are going to be the most effective for you. Mm-hmm. One of the things that, again, boggles my mind is how everybody went crazy for TikTok. Oh, TikTok, let's all do TikTok. And they're all, and you've got companies that are putting stuff up on TikTok. Are you looking at the demographic?
Exactly.
If you're trying to sell a Mercedes-Benz through TikTok and the demographic is 12 to 18-year-olds, what are you doing?
Who are so energy conservative that they would never drive a Mercedes. They consider it elitist. Right. I mean, what are you doing?
And then there's things like, I'm going to just put, and this is something that I know you've seen in email, is I'm just going to put a dead end message out there. There's no link back to the website. Right. And I actually, when I was talking to, we had spoken before we came on here, I was at a VO conference in November, and one of the biggest shortcomings of the majority of VOs are they don't have any marketing experience. Here I come with 30 years of marketing experience. So I'm talking very basic stuff, and they're looking at me like I'm the Wizard of Oz, And when I told them, I said, well, when you put stuff up on social media, what's the end game? What's the call to action? And they're like, what's a call to action? And I'm like, is it leading somewhere? And then I see people, other VOs who've been around for a while, and they're advertising that they're doing webinars to teach certain aspects of marketing. And I literally, there was one at this event where they were talking about, they had this custom sales funnel that they were going to do for VOs. And and in VO, most VOs work in multiple genres. So their thing is, you pick one of your genres, and we'll record a video of you saying, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I do VO. And we're going to put the video out there through Google and Facebook ads. And it's going to be up for 6 months. And I was like, I listened to one of their webinars, and somebody said, well, I do multiple genres. Do I get like a package deal? And they're like, no, it would be $2,000 for each. And the more I found out about them, when I was at the conference, they were doing a presentation, and I had other teachers who did presentations there that I knew. And they're like, are you going to go in and listen to this? And I said, no, because if I start asking questions 5 minutes in, it will be an absolute bloodbath. And then I had people come out and they were like, these two can't even market themselves. Why are they, and their definition of a sales funnel is, we're going to put the video up there, and if someone clicks on it and fills out a form that's not even on your website, it's a Google form, then they've completed the funnel. And I'm like, you don't even know what a sales funnel is. You don't know how it operates. You don't know how to track it. And you don't realize that you're supposed to be driving people to a website, not leaving them out on a Google form somewhere, you know?
Yeah,
And
it's tough. It's tough for VOs because, well, you know what? I'll call a VO a solopreneur. So you're out there by yourself. It's your brand, yourself. You're doing this. You're selling your own. You're selling yourself. So suddenly, you realize, do I have a company name? Do I need a company name? Do I have a brand? Do I have a logo? Do I need one? Do I have a web page? Do I need one? And at the very least, you need a LinkedIn business page. At the very least. So it becomes very difficult and expensive and complicated. And it's almost, this is what I found myself in my networking and in talking with a bunch of different types of people. They're coaches of various levels. They don't know how to do their own marketing.
No.
So there's a whole business out there, whole marketing business out there that can cater to solopreneurs who can help them market.
And the problem there is that, and this is something that I saw when I was working as a marketing consultant, and I still say this to people, is you have to be prepared to ask questions and dig a little bit deeper before you invest in this person. And the one thing I always come back to is I used to do these morning networking groups here many years ago. The person who used to run them, Val, can't think of her last name now. She ran Elephant Networking. And we would go and they would do a round table and have all these people there. And I would always ask her, I said, let me know who the other marketing consultants are. And then let me know where to sit so I'm the last person to talk. And I'd sit there and get one guy who got up and he was like, I'm going to show you how to increase sales by 30%. And I literally stood up at the end and I said, Rob Carbone, marketing consultant, listen, unlike my colleagues, I'm not going to promise you those numbers because I don't know your business. I don't know what you're doing right now. I'm not going to guarantee you something. All I will say is I will look at what you're doing. And if I can, I will improve your ability to generate those numbers, but you have to participate. And there was one guy that I used to laugh at. He, and I'm not going to mention names or anything like that, but he was a old-time marketing person who was very focused on the tchotchkes. And then he decided, I'm going to branch out. And the name of his company was it was almost like it seemed like it was a gag. And I met him at one of these things and he's talking to me and everything. And then I went to his website. His website was still based on some front page variant. And this was 2015, 2016. He had no social media presence to speak of. And I'm like, how are you doing that? He's now since shifted to something else. And it's an aspect of sales that might very well work for a salesman who is out in the field and actively marketing and things like that, or on the phone. But it's not something that a marketer can use because, especially like with what I do, you cannot explain fully to someone or give them a good sense of what you do and how you can help them in a 15 or 20 second statement. And a lot of the people who are VOs who are offering marketing advice out to people, they're giving good advice, but it's literally like it's the tip of the iceberg thing. They're describing to people what's above. Nobody understands what's below. And I've asked a couple who were talking, well, now that you're doing that, you send in your emails. How are you tracking the success? How are you seeing if people are clicking and coming through? And they just sort of get this like deer in the headlights look in their eyes.
It's kind of sad.
And I know they mean well, but I also know that like I have to be a little gentle because I've been doing marketing since the days of faxes, mass faxes, and things like that. So but that's and in a nutshell, I think the it's getting better, but I think one of the problems with social media marketing is it's still very much, let's see how much what we can throw against the wall and see what sticks. And what's nice, and the way I see voiceover as a part of that social media conversation is that there are studies all over the place. And I went to this is back in 2010, I guess it was, a Google Lunch and Learn. And they were talking, and YouTube was there as well. And they said, if you're trying to talk to C-suites, here's the top 3 search engines they use. And I want to say the third one was whatever Microsoft was calling themselves back then. Number 2 was YouTube, and number 1 was Google. And people were like, well, YouTube's not a search engine. They said, no, but you can go onto YouTube and you can search for a topic and you'll get videos. And the way that becomes a powerful tool for you is you can write an 8-page white paper, graphs, and all this other stuff. Or you can do a 2 to 3 minute presentation, or you can do a 2 to 3 minute case study. And there have been C-level executives who say, I can turn on my computer, start playing this video, and I'm doing something else and I'm listening. So I'm able to, and I'm not sitting there going through pages and falling asleep needing coffee. With social media and even with email is you put a message out there and you want it to be a short, punchy message with the call to action to send them somewhere, preferably your website. You could send them to a static page. You could send them to a page with pictures on it. Or you can take advantage of things like, do they still use whiteboard videos? Or like there's a lot of them now, these presentation videos and stuff like that. Or even like what I used to do for one company where I'd go out and shoot video and then stitch it all together and put the voiceover.
They're short form.
Right. And now you've got something that's humanizing the message. That's you can, if you get the right person doing the read, you can, the tone of their voice,
yes,
it's going to touch someone with something. And,
it's human.
Yeah. And I just was reading before we got on, one of the big concerns in the VO world is, the AI, where you've got these services where I forget what the one is. I haven't seen them advertised, so I guess they got sort of caught up. But caught New York, where it's $49 a month. You type in your message, and we will generate it in whatever language. And you go in and do it. And the thing is, you cannot program a computer, no matter how good the program is, to have certain vocal inflections. Certain, they can do emphasis.
It also doesn't know all the slang. It may not pick up all the,
right.
all the,
You have to be very specific in what you're writing. And it's funny is...
And if you don't speak that language, how do you know it's, you're not saying cocky-do?
Yeah. So you have to, the $49, but if I have a message and I want to put it out there in 5 different languages or 7 different languages, I now have to pay for the translation services for that. Where some VOs who speak those languages will offer the translation services as part of it.
Right.
I know when I do VO, when I do my work, I let people know right from the get-go. I have written scripts and I've copy edited scripts. So if you need that, if you want, okay, good. It's a little bit lesser charge on there, add it on. But the other thing is with VO that I find that we find is a challenge is websites like Fiverr. Fiverr, $5 and I'll do this. And there are people who, they use, I'll even show it. Blue snowball microphone, or they're using their phone with the string with the microphone, and they're offering to record. And what people, I think, most people don't understand about the VO process is it's not just somebody recording a message. It's someone who can read it and interpret it,
Mm-hmm.
understand where you're asking for certain things.
Right.
And then there's
over actor.
Right. And then there's aspects to it, like, so there are big companies that hire VOs, and they'll tell you, record this, send it to us raw as a WAV file, and we'll take care of it. We'll do all the editing. There are others who ask you to, can you clean it up? Can you edit it? Make sure there's no breaks, things like that. That's a process on its own. And even when you're really good at it, it could take 45 minutes for you to edit a 2-hour file, because you have to sit there and go through everything. And that's where people, when they see the rates that VOs charge, when they talk to them directly, they're almost, well, what do you mean? I can get this done on Fiverr. Yeah, but on Fiverr.
Internationally, the global, there is, for everything that you could do, there's somebody that could do it on Fiverr. And they could do it, obviously, at a reduced rate, because, the rates are there are not the rates here. And there's a part of me that says, go for it. If you've got the talent, go for it. But there's also a part of me that says, beware of what you ask for. Because if you're getting talent offshore at a very low price, somebody who hasn't been recommended to you that you don't know, is that your brand voice? I mean, I'm not saying don't use offshore talent. Go for it. In many cases, it makes a tremendous amount of sense.
Right. But again, that's, and you said the brand voice. People have to understand is that when they're doing this, if using VO is going to be part of their strategy going forward, having a voice is one thing. Having the right voice, or the voice that can speak across multiple regions. So a good example, former employer of mine it looks like they just merged with someone, and they might be branching out beyond the Long Island and New York area. And they do some video work and everything. The person that's doing their VO for them right now is a friend of the videographer. And he just, I guess he's one of these people who's like, I want to get into VO. I want to do cartoons. Let me try this. And they don't realize is, along with maybe they're not putting the right inflection and the right emphasis and interpreting the message so that it comes out right, they're also got that New York still going on. And once you get beyond New York, you have to use a general American accent.
You have to use Chicago.
The Midwest. I mean, literally, like, when you go out and look at some of the requirements for VO for American English, it will say general American English, unless they're going very regional. So I can't do a Southern accent. But I can do the general American accent, and I can do the Northeast accent. And I actually got a job because I could do a Northeast accent. Very interesting one, where it was a charity in Israel, and all they wanted me to record was a audio of their opening of their event, but they wanted it done like Michael Buffer, the ring announcer in Vegas.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, yeah, I could do that. And they're like, okay, here's the name of the company. And I was sitting in my booth, and I'm like, oh God, this is going to be painful, because it was, okay, so everybody knows the let's get ready to rumble. But I had to lead into that with Shabbat al-Ronit. Whoa. I had to go from sort of Israeli to calling a Tyson fight. And it was just one of those things where I was like, oh boy, this is going to be bad.
How did it go? Was it bad?
They loved it.
All right. So.
They loved it, which was great. And it was for a charity event. So, and the guy sent me a video of like this big group of people, and they're getting ready. And somebody come, I guess they said, because they were speaking in Hebrew, we're going to be starting the event in a moment. And then all of a sudden, like, the lights dimmed, and then the lights came up, and you hear my voice coming out, and I was like, all right, that wasn't too bad. And hey, I wasn't there, so nobody was pointing at me. Yeah. One
thing that comes to mind, with two things that you said that connect. They'll go to Fiverr and they'll get a VO, right? Or they'll go to some chat, they'll type in something and they'll get 5 different translations into different languages. Well, guess what? Why don't you go to Fiverr and find those 5 different people from those 5 different places and have them do that work, because that's what they speak. And it's still inexpensive. And you're getting the colloquial if that's what you need. Right. Because if you're in Northern Italy, you're not speaking the same exact as you're in Southern, just like we in the United States. It's slightly different. And depending on where what market you're trying to hit, for goodness sake, maybe your product is for India. Well, maybe you do want to go to Fiverr now, and you do want to employ somebody there, and you do want to get somebody relatively inexpensive to be able to give that message to somebody, and they're able to provide that that culture, that national, the intonations, whatever it is, they're able to do that for you. So, I have, for me in email marketing, I hit the outsource wall about 6 years ago, where, Joy, you're going to get outsourced. They're just going to go to somebody cheaper. I code. Right. That's exactly why they're going to go to someone else, because they could find someone offshore to code for half my price, a quarter of my price. And so I hit that wall, and I was honestly, very angry to start with. It occurred to me that I was, again, getting laid off. Now I'm a consultant and I'm getting laid off. Yeah. And then I had to realize, just calm down. The world is going global. You're not going to stop it. You got to work with it. And there's going to be pluses and negatives, and things are going to be difficult. Go with it, because you've got to learn. So I'd say right now, even though we're not totally immersed, we're really 45% immersed. And
it's like, the thing is that, if you're a large entity, not a SMB or just an S, small, where you have a decent sized marketing budget, there are certain things, maybe you do want to outsource. Maybe you don't have anyone in your company who can write effective copy. And when you find that person who can write effective copy, you can stick with them. Problem with Fiverr is, and I see this a lot in the Facebook groups I'm in for VO, is you get people out there, and there's no way to vet it, who decide, well, you know what? I once wrote 3 sentences properly. I'm now going to be a copywriter. Or in the case of VO, we get one of the things that we get on a regular basis is we'll get someone who'll come into one of the groups, and they'll be like, hey, I'm new to VO, and I want to get started. So if you want to make some magic, contact me. Or another guy was like, I'm pretty good with voices. How do I get a job on The Simpsons? And there's me and another VO, and we both do the same thing. It's like, okay, answer these questions, and then we can answer yours. Have you had any training? Do you have any experience? Do you have a reliable recording environment that you can go to? If you can't, what genres do you work in? If you can't answer those questions, you're not ready to be a VO.
Yeah, I feel bad in many ways. A lot of people have reached out to me from overseas, email, content writing, and they've asked me for help. And when I can, I help them. They don't have the resources we do here, and they're dying for work. They're dying for work. Really dying for work. And I get it. And we were not ready. We didn't have solutions in place. I think networking is the best solution to start with. So I'm more than willing to meet these young people overseas, talk with them, give them some pointers. The biggest thing that everyone needs to understand is that you're going to have to do the work. It's just like they try to sell email marketing. Oh, you're going to make millions with email marketing. Well, you're going to have to do the work to get the millions with email marketing. And if you're not willing to do the work, it doesn't turn it over by itself. You don't just flip a switch, the email goes out, and suddenly you've got $100,000. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So anybody in marketing, wanting to come into marketing, wanting to go into VO, wanting to do any of these things, you're going to have to put into work. And if you have the character, if you have the talent, if you have the skills, and you're willing to stick with it, network, do the work, you'll get there. But, how many people has it just happened where it's an overnight sensation? I'm not discounting that. I am not discounting that.
No, yeah. And is it possible? Yes, it's absolutely possible. But you know what? The likelihood of that happening is the same as the likelihood that if your child is good at Little League Baseball, that he's going to play shortstop for the Yankees. And my father had said this to me once when he was working for Major League Baseball. He goes, when you realize how many kids are playing baseball nationally and internationally, and if they all want to play professional baseball, he goes, a larger percent will get into the minor leagues than will play in the majors. But it's like everything else. He said, how many people in this world have flown on planes or even flown planes, but they were never ever that good or got through the training to walk on the moon?
Right.
Right. How many we have a population of 390 million people in this country.
Right.
And, population wasn't always that big, but it's always been growing. But still, through that time, we've only had 47 presidents. It's not, you have to understand that there's a lot of putting in the time. And yeah, there's some getting lucky. But I mean, nobody ever became, I actually was just reading this because when they had the funeral for Pope Benedict, and they were talking about that, and they said there have been 365 popes going back to when, 1 AD. And you don't become pope by luck. You have to be able to network, grow, rise up, and then influence people to the point where they say, yep, he's the next one. He's going to lead us now. And there we go. And admittedly, mistakes are made in everything. And putting in the work, not just on the marketing side for the companies who are hiring the email specialists, the voiceover specialists, the video graphic designers, but the people who are doing those things as far as marketing their skills. One of the things that as I've spoken to other VOs and they're asking me questions about marketing, I'm like, and I'm telling them, this is what you need to do. This is how you do it easily. I looked at what you're doing. Your website, it's based in WordPress. Good job. Perfect. Your website is based in Wix. There's a big problem there, but I'll let you know what that is. It might not be an issue. You're using social media for a website? Horrible idea. Horrible. Or you get the people who, and we all know the eponymous Gary Vaynerchuk, who just throws pronunciations out there about what you have to do to be successful. And like so many other people in this world telling people what to do, there is no basis in reality for it. And one of the ones he said, I used to read his stuff, and then one day I saw something from him. If you're going to properly use social media to market and sell, you have to post 43 or 45 pieces of new content a day.
That's insane.
And I said that, and I'm like, maybe if you're a small business, 10 pieces of content a week, and some of that is either recycled or repurposed. My big thing with writing blogs is if you're writing a blog, headline and 3 sub-headlines, because then you can post out based on those sub-headlines and get more run out of it. And then I was like, I can't take this guy seriously. And then I saw he recently did a thing where he talks about how he got started. we didn't even have office space. We had to borrow a conference room from someone. And I'm saying to myself, you came out of NYU. You took over the family business that was making $2 million. You turned it into a $50 million a year enterprise, all online. And you're telling me that after doing that, you suddenly just, you suddenly went poor, you jumped on a train, became a hobo, and now I need to borrow. No, you were using the conference room in your family's business that you own. The staff that you were using that was helping you, or the people in the marketing department. Please don't tell me this crap, because I know it's not right. But you get people who are involved in marketing who see him talking. Oh, I got to listen. Oh, he's done TED Talks.
Yes, he's very, he's, marketing.
He's a good self promoter.
Yes,
he puts on the hoodie, he puts on the beanie, he doesn't shave, he goes out and talks.
Exactly. He has, for whatever it's worth, what people perceive as who they are and where they want to go. Right. So he's the persona. He's that avatar. He's not stupid, but I often call him the living meme, because that's all that he does. Everything that he does is a living meme. It's all platitudes. To me, it's all platitudes. And I hate to say that, I'm not knocking the guy. I'm merely saying,
hey, he's been very successful.
Very successful. So, here I am, I am living in a little house. I haven't had a vacation in a million years. I've got to find my own job. No one's calling me. My phone does not ring off the wall. So Who am I to judge him? But I can say that while I refer to him, I don't ever want to be him. And I've many times when I do talk with, when I'm networking and I talk with people, I will mention, I'll be like, I'd like to be, I liken myself to, and I say Joe Rogan, right? But I'm not Joe Rogan. Don't think I am, right? Or Gary Vee, but but I'm not. I've just got to put myself out there with regard to the podcast, what we're doing right now. When I talk with people, they're like, well, what are you doing the podcast for? I'm like, have you ever watched Joe Rogan? I think he's great. I just enjoy the way he does it. If I could be like that, I would be very happy. But I'm not him. I have no experience in his experience. And I'm not, interviewing MMA people or WMA or whatever.
Right. I'm getting ready to launch my own podcast. And I put out an episode last year of a marketing podcast. And I did it. And I was like, again, it was like that. I don't want that weight of marketing on me. I'll have individual conversations with people and stuff like that. I'll offer advice. I don't want to be this suddenly every week I'm put. I took a lesson recently with another VO who's very well known in the doing like narrations and audiobooks. And I told her I want to get into narration on TV, documentaries and things like that. And I had this idea of doing a podcast. And it's a podcast about what I like to refer to as lost history. Things that happened that at the time they happened had a great command over everybody's attention. But as the years went by, they sort of faded into the mist, only to come back again when someone discovered them. It's almost like, hey, this also happened.
Hey, did you know that Tesla lived on Long Island?
Right, exactly. But so, I'm getting ready to launch that. And as I'm working on it, it's like, okay, I know that the people I think everybody watches Only Murders in the Building, and you see them doing that, and you see the main the one character who's played by Tina Fey, and she's got this podcast, she's got a studio, she's got people working for her, they're doing the research, they're doing the writing, and it's like, I have to do all that myself, and it may make me money at some point, but to start out with, no. But my teacher told me, this instructor told me, to do that because if someone goes out and says, I need to find someone to narrate this podcast about this historic event, if someone knows you and knows them, they may go, listen to this guy right here.
That's right.
The box
at every, listen, we all, we all have to brand ourselves. I've said this a number of times, and maybe I'm repeating myself, and I'm sorry. The resume is dead.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is your resume. And if you're not branded at LinkedIn, they're looking at it like, and who is this person?
Exactly.
What do they do?
Exactly.
So it's a little difficult. The world constantly changes. Yes, it's the same wheel. It's around and it goes around and around. Yes, I'm not saying we're reinventing anything. I'm just saying there's nuance, and the nuance has changed. It's gone digital. That resume, you can hand them something. I'm not saying they're going to ask you for a resume when you apply for a job, and you're going to upload it. That they're still doing that now. This
Right.
point in time, and they're not going to do that. But you know that they're going to go to Google and they're going to type your name in, and they're going to come up with your Facebook page, your Instagram page, your LinkedIn page. And if that isn't branded, if you're doing all sorts of nonsense there, if you're vaping all over the place on Instagram, because that's who you want to look like on Instagram,
right?
Your potential is going to see that.
It's two things in regards to that. Number one is my daughter is in the process of a job search, and she's, she has, I tell her, I've told her friends and everything, you're still going to be asked for resumes because that's almost the standard. Mm-hmm. Make sure that your LinkedIn mirrors your resume and actually has more information, and make sure that your resume, right at the top, right above your phone number and your email address, is your LinkedIn handle. Mm-hmm. And because they're going to look at that, and then they're going to go to verify, because they're going to see how many people you connected to, how many referrals you've had, all of these things.
The activity that you've had on LinkedIn. What do you say sometimes?
Right. And, what you're saying about how, you're vaping on Instagram because that's who you want to be.
If that's who you want to be, I have no problems there, but I'm just saying.
Many years ago, well, I guess it was around 2011, 2012. My whole family, civil servants, and 911 operator came up. I was too old to join the police, even though my father did that. It just came to me late. 911 operator come up in Nassau County. So I went through the whole process, took the test, did well. They finally called me, blah, blah, blah. They bring me in for to do an interview. And it was at the Nassau County Police Academy, which is now on Nassau Community College property. And they're like, okay. They go through the whole thing. They go, now we need to see your social media. And I went, oh, okay, no problem. And they said, yeah, we need to see your MySpace and your Facebook. And I went, MySpace? MySpace? And the guy's like, well, yeah, we look at MySpace, Facebook, and Twitter. And I went, well, what about like LinkedIn and YouTube? There are such things. It went from me showing them my social media to me giving these investigating detectives a quick lesson on social media. and what's funny was, I got vetted all the way through, but because of different financial things, I never did get hired. I was like close. But the guy said to me as they're walking me out, he goes, maybe you'll appreciate this. He goes, we did have somebody who came in here with MySpace, and we took one look at his MySpace page, and we just couldn't hire him. And I went, why? He goes, because on the top of his MySpace page was a picture that showed the world on fire, and the caption said, I want to watch the world burn and laugh at the cries. And I'm like, and that I always tell people, younger people, please be very, very careful of what you put on social media. Yes. It lives forever. I worked with a woman who, her husband lost his job because they both worked for financial institutions. It's the other way around. The guy worked with us, and he went with his wife's company, and they had tickets for a Yankee game. And he was cold, and they were giving out sweatshirts for the event that had his wife's company name on it. So he put the sweatshirt on because he was happy to be warm, and they took a picture, and they posted it up, and they tagged him on LinkedIn. And somebody in our company saw it, and they're like, you embarrassed the company by working for us and wearing one of our competitors' shirts. Empty your desk. Get out. And I'm like...
That's a Seinfeld episode when Elaine wears she's at
the Baltimore Orioles hat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn my light off here. I'm starting to get washed out.
So, yeah. So,
Okay.
it's the world is a very interesting place. Marketing is a very interesting place. Social's very interesting. Influencing, and I'd say we think about first of all, we're marketers, so we think about social in the marketing mind, and we also think about it critically, right? Those that have grown up in social media don't, and are not in marketing, aren't critical.
Hold on a minute.
Yes.
He's getting the harsh sunlight in there. It was starting to look weird.
They're not critical. They've been in social media all their lives. They're not critical. It's almost just a website to them. Like you said, if you're coming up in VO and you think that social media is your website, you're wrong. But they do.
Yeah, I had a person who I was friends with. We never worked together. We would do networking events. We'd go to them together. And she called me up one day. Rob, I need your help. Why? I need you to look at my social media, because I hired a guy to do social media. And I told him very clearly, these are the days I want you to post, but I want you to compose the post and then send it to me. He was just posting sight unseen, and he was using text speak. So your was you are. 4 was the number 4. And it was like, it was using all sorts of slang.
Oh my God.
And yeah, I told her.
It's just the same thing with vaping. It's okay if that's who you want to be.
If your target market talks slang and they like text talk, then absolutely go for it. But if you're trying to sell yourself to a corporation or a big business, they're going to look at that and just be like, what are they doing here? And it's the same thing with the voiceover and even videography. Anybody can go out and teach themselves videography. I taught myself, and I learned how to video. I started learning perspectives. I got good. I wasn't Spielberg. Anybody can grab one of these mics and hook it up and find some software they can record with.
Podcast. I'm one.
Right. But it doesn't mean that when you're said and done, the quality is going to be there. And again, another without mentioning anybody, friend of mine did it wasn't a video, but it was almost like there was pictures and he did the audio behind it. And the guy who was putting this together for him, a friend who was a consultant, said, well, you're going to record it. Come to my office and you can record it. And as soon as I heard it, I contacted him and I'm like, I'm going to guess right now that you were standing in the middle of an office facing a USB microphone and you were about 5 feet away. And the drapes on the windows were open and there was nothing around. He's like, how did you know? I said, because it sounds so hollow and you can hear the backup and everything like that, like the feedback. I said, when you do something like that, even if you take the microphone, and I told him to tell this guy, take the microphone, go into a closet with all those clothes, put the microphone deep in there and stand about a foot away from the microphone. That's gonna do amazing things for the sound. There are VOs who, when they go on the road, they bring what's called their travel kit. And they bring a microphone, they bring the audio interface, they bring their laptop or their tablet. If they're using a technology, they can use on the tablet. And then to create the recording environment, I've heard where they've taken, there's upholstered armchairs in their room. They put it up on the table and create a little cave that they can get in and throw a blanket over the back of their head. They make pillow forts. One guy actually got a room.
A negative anti-echo chamber.
Yeah, one guy actually got a room with 2 twin beds in it, and he had to record something, and he basically stripped both beds, took the 2 mattresses, put them in like a V, and recorded it, and then he put them back, and he said, I'm leaving. My wife and I are going out to do some sightseeing, and all I'm thinking is, what the hell are the room cleaners going to think about us? It looks like it was torn apart, but he was able to create the sounds he needed. And if you're working with a VO who doesn't understand that, doesn't understand how to edit it, is recording on a cell phone, a mobile phone, you're getting what you pay for.
Right.
And always ask questions. No matter how urgent something is, you can ask questions, because a good VO, if you tell them, here's the script, it's for a 2-minute video, how quickly can you turn it around? If they tell you it's urgent, and this is the first time you worked with them, you're going to get charged the normal rate, might be $175 for 2 minutes, but you're going to get it recorded in a good environment. You're going to get it clean. You're going to get it edited. You're going to get the ability to go back to them and ask them to do a re-record. But from the VO's point of view, I do a good job for them once and turn this around quickly. They're going to remember me. That's the hope. And that's the thing. You know, it's as with any other type of creative consultant, you always have to ask questions. You always have to do your due diligence. And if you don't know what questions to ask,
Rob.
Well, yeah, ask me. But there are forums. I mean, you can go on to Facebook or LinkedIn and type in voiceover in the groups, and you're going to get a bunch of groups. And these are people who are more than happy to answer your questions, as long as you're not trying to get in their group to sell them something.
Right.
You know, so there's plenty of resources out there, and just due diligence is what it comes down to. As with everything else, due diligence.
We obviously can talk forever.
Yes.
But we can't. So tell my audience where they can find you. And
sure. My website is robcarbonevo.com. I am on multiple social media, but the primary one that I use is my LinkedIn company page, which is, I want to say it's Rob Carbone Voiceover. If you go in and you do a search,
I think it's company Rob Carbone VO.
Yeah, VO. Okay. And that'll take you to my company page, and that has contact information. I'm on Facebook. You can find me on there. Don't use Twitter. Don't use Instagram. And yeah.
There you go.
But anybody, I mean, if you go to my website, my phone number's on there. My email address is on there. You can find me.
Very good.
And more than happy to answer questions, provide some consulting. And you know what? If you need a voice that I am not, if you need a female voice with a Southern accent, I have contacts and I can refer you to people.
You're a referral.
So yeah, and I know audio engineers. If you want one of those, I can make those referrals. I'm more than happy to do it, because the VO community is very supporting of itself. Because we are fighting off the Fivers of the world and the pay to play sites, and the people who they come into Facebook and they're like, I've been told I do good voices. How do I get a job on The Simpsons? You don't. You hate to take the wind out of your sails there, Chuckles. You don't.
Oh, well. We end on a note that's so typically Rob.
Yes, that's my personality. A little ray of sunshine.
Thanks so much, Rob.
Thank you for having me, Joy. Take care.
Take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.